And we are live. What's going on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is dun, 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 all for this moment. As always, I like to share what I mean by my topics. So what do I mean by the topic all for this moment? What I mean is how the accumulation of our life experiences, how it strengthens us for the next experience that we're going to experience. So tonight I have three tools for you, three tools for the first row that I want to share with you in regards to all for this moment. Let's jump straight into it. Tool number one when it comes to all for this moment is prepare out of consideration. Now, there's a saying that practice makes perfect. My theory is practice makes us better. That comes from Les Brown. It doesn't make us perfect. We're never going to reach any state of perfection in any craft that we attempt to do. But the reason why I say prepare out of consideration is because when we are considering what we are preparing for when it comes to the all for this moment, every experience that we have gives us the opportunity to learn, gives us the opportunity to grow, gives us the opportunity to consider what we can do differently the next time we're faced with similar circumstances. And the reason I say out of consideration instead of out of the other thing I'm going to share in a minute is because when we are considerate about our actions, it almost has the same impact or result as actions that are being observed. Well, they say when a subject knows that they are being observed, they behave differently than they would behave when they would when they are not being observed. And so when I say prepare out of consideration, what I'm saying is be considerate that you're actually practicing for this moment, that you're practicing for the next moment. And the reason I say consideration is because often what happens is we prepare from a place of fear. Hey, what's going on, Caroline? Hey, Patsy. We prepare ourselves out of fear. Oh, I hope this doesn't happen, so I'm going to be prepared for it. My uncle always says you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. But I think that when I was younger, maybe I took that as, hey, I got to keep my head on a swivel and be ready for anything. And that was kind of more of a fear-based mindset. But you don't have to get ready if you stay ready and if you're preparing out of consideration for what you're trying to achieve. I just had this conversation with my wife earlier this week where we were talking about a meditation technique called visualization. And in that conversation, she's a very much a what if this happens, what if that happens type person. Whereas for myself, I'm trying to get from point A to point B. Whatever happens in between point A and point B, that is what I'm going to be focused on at that time. But I'm not going to try to focus on it or prepare for it before it gets there. And so when I say prepare out of consideration, think of it like this. An athlete who plays a sport, let's say we play basketball, when they review footage for the game that's coming up for the team that they're going to be competing against, they're not like, oh my God, I hope we don't lose. And I want to look at all the footage that's going to come up that I could see. So I know every kind of way that I could possibly lose. They're more preparing for winning. They're preparing to win the game. They're preparing out of consideration because the consideration is that they want to win the game. That's me out of fear and a what if person. Yeah, no, that's definitely not me. And it actually agitates me when people throw too many what ifs at me. But the athletes, they're preparing for their game, or as they're watching footage, or even as they go to practice, they're not like, hey man, you got to make sure that you really perfect this crossover because we don't want to lose. They're not even considering the fact that they may or may not lose the game. They're just preparing out of consideration because the end objective they know is to win the game. What happens when the game starts, that's a whole nother thing. But as far as what they're trying to accomplish is to win the game. And so the reason why I say prepare out of consideration instead of out of fear also is because when fear drives our actions, our emotions are at the will. And I'm not saying that we're not emotional beings, that we don't have emotions, that we don't have feelings. I mean, that those emotions and feelings don't in many ways guide some of the choices that we make. That's not what I'm saying. But when emotions are solely at the will and they can do as they please or as they feel, what happens is we begin to make knee-jerk reactions, and we start, again, if you think about how a person reacts when somebody jumps out and scares them, and boo, if your emotions are at the will, you jerk, you jump. And so think about in all the experiences we're having for this moment, if we are allowing our emotions to be at the will, then what can end up happening, I don't want to say what will happen, what can end up happening is that we end up in a state where we give up a lot or we back down from difficult situations because our emotions say, hey, this is difficult, I don't like the way this feels, I'm going to step back. They used to say, I'm gonna just fall back. Yeah, you can fall back all you want, but at some point you can only go so far backwards, and then at that point you might step down a whole nother level. So that's tool number one that I wanted to share. I think it was a really important tool. Prepare out of consideration, not out of fear. You're not worried about what's going to come, what will, what may. It's all about enjoying the experience and allowing the experience to strengthen you for the next experience. So tool number two, and that actually leads very well into tool number two. And yes, Terlin, yes, that what if part can be tricky. Absolutely, it can be tricky. But tool number two, when it comes to all for this moment. Oh, I guess I could put the tools up. Sorry. Tool number two, when it comes for all this moment, is appreciate the journey. Oh man, it's like, I feel like appreciation can be a tool almost in every single Wednesday word. But the reason this is important is because every experience that we have every single day is a new experience. Even if we've experienced it before, we haven't experienced it in the day or in the moment that we're experiencing in it. So think about it like climbing a mountain. I can go and climb hundreds of different mountains, and they can be varying levels of difficulty or varying degrees of difficulty. But there's some added benefits to climbing a mountain that we sometimes take for granted. Number one added benefit is if you're climbing a mountain, there's going to be some exercise involved. So that's an indirect benefit of just simply choosing to go and climb a mountain. You might want to get to the top of the mountain, but to get there, it's going to require some exercise. But there's some other things that I think kind of go unnoticed. When you climb a mountain, and I've been on a couple of mountains in my life, there's typically a view that you gain from being at that vantage point on the mountain. Also, there's like just a plethora of things to adventure as you climb up the mountain as well, whether it be the grass, the rocks, the wild flowers that you find, certain insects or certain animals that you find when you're climbing the mountain. That is some of the indirect benefits. And so when we look at our journey or when we look at our experience, if we can learn to appreciate the journey, we can stop taking for granted some of those subtleties that are in the journey or in the experience itself. So there's, for instance, being a father, it's really challenging. If you're not a father or a mother or have children, it can be really challenging. And there's days where it's just like, gosh, is this the same thing over and over and over again? However, if you look at the subtleties, the things that you are gaining from the experience of being a parent, you're learning to be an effective communicator. Sometimes you're not the best effective communicator. Sometimes I'm not the best effective communicator as a parent, but you learn to be a better communicator. You learn to be pragmatic. You learn to have compassion. Sometimes you learn to put your emotions to the side so that you can deal with things that you need to deal with. And so there's a lot of things in that journey and in that experience that you can glean from it if you learn to appreciate it. Because I'm going to tell you, sometimes being a parent, you just be like, man, I don't even want to do this today. I just don't have the energy. But if you can learn to appreciate the journey, and you can learn to appreciate the overflow of the experience, then you're able to now glean again things that you would not have been able to glean if you're just going from experience to experience to experience to experience. And so when you think about all for this moment, and how our experiences previously strengthen our experiences for the future, appreciation has to be there, because it's hard to also retain information that you don't have an appreciation for. It's almost like being a kid with an allowance. Well, no, not an allowance. We'll say with an allowance that your parents just give you. Oh yeah, here's $5, here's $10, and they just give you money. And so you spend that money because you're like, oh, there'll be another $10 coming. I didn't do anything for it. I don't have to earn it. It just comes like clockwork. TikTok, Friday, $10, Friday, $10. And what happens is you lack the appreciation for the value of the money that you're receiving. Now, if you're a child who has chores, and you're like, okay, I got to clean the kitchen, I got to clean the bathroom, I got to make sure my room's clean, and I got to vacuum the living room. I don't know if kids get that many chores these days, but if they do still get those kind of chores. And then your parents are like, okay, here's $10 for all those chores. You have an appreciation for that money because you know what went into acquiring that money. That's exactly how our experiences work, when we appreciate the experiences that we have instead of being combative with them and standoffish and tussling with them all the time. When we learn to appreciate our experiences, we learn to value them in a way that brings that value into our next experience that, again, is either similar or it can be different, but you're just pulling some of the tools from another experience. So that is tool number 2: appreciate the journey. Tool number 3, when it comes to all for this moment, is everything is practice for this moment. Everything is practice for this moment. Everything leading up to this moment today was practice for this moment today. Everything that is added today will be practice for my moments tomorrow. And when you accept that everything is practice, this is one of the best things that happens, is you understand that in our practice is where we're supposed to make the mistakes. And so if every moment that we're experiencing is practice for the next moment, then that means it's actually okay that we make mistakes along the way. It's actually okay that in the present experience we make a mistake because it's practice for a different experience in the future. Now, if we learn from that mistake, that's the sweet spot to where you can now apply what you've learned into the next moment. But even in that next moment, when you're taking the new things that you've learned from the previous moments and applying them to that next moment, again, that moment is practice for the moment to follow after. It's almost like a video that I heard, I think a week or two ago, where we were listening to about happiness. They were talking about happiness, and the speaker said, we put happiness on the other side of accomplishment. So it's like, I will be happy when. So you got to make the win, and then you reach this happiness. But the problem is you get to the win, happiness is on the other side of it, but then you move it. It's like, okay, well, I'll be happy when I have $100, going back to money. When I was younger, I'll be happy when I have $100 in the bank account. Then I get $100 in the bank account. Then I'm like, you know what? I'll be happy when I have 200 in the bank account. Then I get 200. I'll be happy when I have $1,000 in the bank account. Then I get the $1,000 in the bank account. Happiness continues to move with it. Practicing for the moment, everything that leads up to the moment, is about accepting the fact that you're human, that you're going to make mistakes in your journey, that you're going to have good experiences and bad experiences, that you have the opportunity to learn from both, whether they're good or bad. And accepting that everything is practice for the moment is really about trying. And I don't like the word trying very, very, very often, but trying or attempting your 100% best as often as you can. And if there's a day where you hit 98% or even 89%, or some days 50%, that's okay. You're practicing for the next moment. And sometimes that happens too. So that's what I got for you guys. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to expand upon that tool anymore. That's what I got for you guys today. So really quick, I want to go over the tools for you for the first row. Again, really quick, the tools when it comes to all for this moment. Tool number 1 is prepare out of consideration. Do not allow fear to drive your preparation. You will put emotions at the steering wheel, and emotion is not the best driver all the time. Sometimes it is, but not often. Tool number 2 is appreciate the journey. Acknowledge the indirect benefits of your experiences. There are some things that you're gonna glean from each and every experience that you have. Be willing to acknowledge those. Be willing to appreciate those so that you can truly value them and apply them to the next experiences that you're going to have. And then tool number 3 is everything is practice for this moment. Now it's practice for the next moment. And what that is again, you're supposed to make mistakes when you practice. Give yourself some grace. give yourself some forgiveness, forgive yourself when you make the mistakes, but learn from them and move on and realize that, hey, that was my practice jump shot. Now it's time to shoot a real one. Oh, I missed that one too. Guess we're still practicing. So that's what I got for you guys today. As always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story, something that got me thinking about this particular topic. And it's interesting what got me thinking about this topic all for this moment, because this is really what generated the thought in initially, and then it just kind of continued to resonate with me. But I was thinking about how this goes way back to like when I was in elementary school. When I first started doing talent shows, I used to get anxiety before shows. And I would just be like, I didn't know what anxiety was as a kid, but I was like, oh, I'm like super nervous and I'm sweaty and I just, I'm kind of frazzled. Um, and I would go into the shows, and then when it would be time to do like the dance or time to do the routine or sing or whatever it was, I'd be fine because I would just be focused on hitting the right notes or hitting the right dance moves. And then I fast forward to this YouTube channel, First Row, and I started thinking about how I used to get anxiety when right before I go live. It was like, oh my God, am I going to stumble through this thing? Am I going to have the right words? Am I just going to blank and then be like, I don't know what to say. I got to go by. But I started thinking about how I used to have anxiety before these shows. And as I started thinking about this concept, I was like, man, I remember I used to be younger and I would have anxiety, and then I would go and do whatever I needed to do, and I didn't. And now I'm older and I have anxiety because I'm doing this live show. And then that anxiety subsides when I start the show. And it was like, wow, there's been this pattern of moments, whether it was like going into an interview and having anxiety, starting a dance routine and having anxiety, looking at my bank account and seeing it was negative and having anxiety. All these little experiences have all been for this moment, to where I am so comfortable in who I am. I'm so comfortable in forgiving myself and giving myself some grace on the mistakes that I have, and being able to say, you know what? This is practice. This is practice. As Allen Iverson said, practice. We talking about practice. This is practice. And so when I'm getting to my next moment, whether that, at this point, I don't know what First Row has in store. It could be national television. I just feel like I might have a moment of anxiety, but I'll be able to fall back and rely on everything that I've gone through to get to this point has prepared me for this point. And the things that I'll go through beyond this point will prepare me for my next point. That's really what All for This Moment is about, is looking at your life experiences through the vast lens of time that we have now as adults. If you've been here for 8 years, I don't know how old my viewers are, but if you've been here for 8 years, you got 8 years of time to look at. If you've been here for 40 years, 41 years like myself, you have 41 years to look at, to really look at all the things that have prepared you for the person that you are today. And here's the sweet spot. It's a bonus tool. I didn't put it in here, but this is the sweet spot, is that if you look back on all the things that prepared you for today, and you still don't feel like you're where you want to be, or where you deserve to be, or desire to be, or whatever it may be, then you have the ability to say, what experiences do I need to add? Because those will be the experiences you need to practice for the next moment. So that's what I have for you guys. If there is anything else that you guys need from me, please do not hesitate to reach out. I appreciate you guys. I see you, Bruni. I appreciate you guys stepping in. Really quick, I want to bring in the live chats. It looks like Patsy, again, you said that's me out of fear and a what if person. So you were talking about tool number one. Terrelyn, you said, yes, that what if part can be tricky. Absolutely. Also, oh, you had to get on multiple platforms tonight. Okay, well, that's cool. I like it. And then, oh, you like being able to see the tools. That's why. You love that. Keep it moving. Absolutely. Hey, keep it moving like a drive-by, they say. And then the anxiety, yes, Terrelyn, that is a pattern. And then there's a method to our madness. Yeah, sometimes, though, that madness, we create that madness. We talked about that on Tuesday, that self-inflicted madness. Bruni, thank you. I appreciate you for being on live again. And absolutely, it's all preparation for execution. True, true, true. Thank you guys for all tuning in live. As always, there are some things that are coming down the pipeline. We do have the Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion national bestseller that is still available at firstrow.com. And actually, it's available on Amazon and Walmart, but I always recommend firstrow.com because then I can sign your book before I send it to you. We also have what's coming up on the First Row is Tuesday. It'll be, I don't even know, I'm losing track on the number of shows that we've done, but we have Carolyn Michelle and Billy Rowe live. That is at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to see what that topic's about, heck, if you want to get engaged in that conversation, come on and join us live. Have a drink with us for about 5 minutes, and we'll talk about what it is the topic is about. And then also next week, we will have next week's Wednesday Word. That will be the mental workout. That will be the 20th of April at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The mental workout. I can't wait to talk about that one. You guys are going to like that one, I believe. But yeah, make sure you're there for that one live so you can add to that conversation. And then last but not least, as always, if you have a topic idea that you want to share or want to be brought to the First Row, please, please, please do not hesitate to bring it to the First Row and drop it at topics@firstrow.com. And we will notify you when that topic is going to go live, and then you will be able to watch it live. That is what we have. So those are everything that we have for you guys today, or that I have for you guys today. I'm used to being now, I guess, with you, Carolyn, but that's what I have for you guys today. I thank you guys so much for tuning in live. As always, if you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. I love engaging with you guys in the live chat. I hope to have you guys on the live show on Tuesday. Join in, jump in. The link will be posted. But other than that, until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for sitting on the First Row.